Coming up on Oakdale Update, we're going to interview our new City Administrator, Bart Fischer. And we'll give you some important code reminders and talk about some upcoming events. Stay tuned. Oakdale Update is straight ahead. Hello and welcome to Oakdale Update. I'm your host, Frank Orsello. This is the City of Oakdale's news and information program about your community. Last year, longtime Oakdale City Administrator Craig Waldron retired, leaving an opening for the position. After an extensive search, Bart Fischer was hired. He has experience in Oakdale, having worked for the city as an administrative intern in 2002 and was most recently the city administrator in Falcon Heights. He began his post in Oakdale earlier this year. Bart, thanks for joining us on Oakdale Update today.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me.
You are quite welcome. Let's start out with, tell me about yourself and your background and that sort of thing, okay?
Sure, great. Well, once again, thanks for having me, Frank. So yeah, I was born and raised down in the city of Rosemount, southern suburb of the Twin Cities metro area. So I haven't strayed too far from home. From Rosemount, after growing up there, I went to Northwestern College for my undergraduate degree. It was renamed to the University of Northwestern St. Paul. So,
is that the one out on Snelling Avenue? Where is it? Where's it located?
Yep, you are exactly right, Frank.
Okay,
yep,
yeah,
out on Snelling and Lydia, just north of Rosedale Mall there.
Okay.
So, yep.
Okay.
That's where I met my wife, Tammy, and we've been happily married for 17 years. And we have 3 children. Drew is 11, Kate is 9, and Cam is 7. And I joke, and I really am joking when I say this, but at the same time, it's almost busier at home than it is at work. So I need to come to work to get a little break.
To get away from it all.
Yes.
So you get your undergrad there, and then you got a master's too?
Yes, I have a master's degree from Metro State University.
Okay,
so
how old are you?
I am 40 years old.
Are you really?
Yes.
Oh, you're just a young whippersnapper. Okay, so after you graduated, got your undergrad, you went to work for the Minnesota State Legislature for the Senate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How'd that come about? Why would you pick a job like that?
Sure. Kind of an interesting story.
What is your degree in it, by the way?
My degree actually from Northwestern is in history. And
History.
then my master's degree is in public administration for Metropolitan State.
Okay, so how did you choose to go to work at the Senate?
Sure. Well, it was posted on the board one day. It was my senior year, actually the last semester of my undergrad college at Northwestern, and it was posted on the board in our history department, and it was internships at the Minnesota Senate. So I interned for a state senator, and then that parlayed actually into a full-time job in a nonpartisan position for the Secretary of the Senate, who at the time was Pat Flavin. So.
Were you Sergeant at Arms too? I thought I read that someplace.
Yes, yep. So Pat was actually in charge of the Sergeant at Arms and as the Secretary of the Senate. So I worked for about 3 years in the Sergeant at Arms office, and then I moved up to be what they call a front desk assistant. And that was actually, I guess the easiest way to explain it would be as legislators introduced bills, we would make sure they went to the proper committee, and then when they came back with a committee report, you could say a paper pushing, you might say, but very important.
Kind of a traffic cop for the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how was that experience? That must have been quite interesting.
Yes, Frank. It was very interesting, Frank. And actually, I am very glad that I had that experience at the state level, because now, even at the local level in cities, we're up, I guess you could say lobbying for bills or testifying to the legislature on bills. And it's helpful to have that knowledge of, where a particular bill of interest to the city of Oakdale might be in the process and where it might go from there. And having that experience is huge. It really makes a big difference in how we are able to get legislation passed for the city of Oakdale.
Sure. I know now Craig was, when he had a couple of things going down there, him and the mayor, and they had to go down and get some money. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, and he just, in that Carmserac said, I would never want to be involved with that. So what's your opinion on that?
Sure. Well, I wouldn't want to be an elected official, let's put it that way.
Okay.
I like being on the administrative side of things. But quite frankly, I got to a point when I was working at the Senate where I kind of hit a ceiling there in my career, and I started looking around at other jobs in the public sector, and I kept seeing these city manager, city administrator jobs, but they needed a master's degree. And actually, Pat Flavin, the Secretary of the Senate, was at that time at Metropolitan State doing his master's in public administration. So he encouraged me to go there, and ironically, one of my professors actually in my public finance class was Craig Waldron, the city administrator in Oakdale.
So what was your relationship with him at that point? I mean, you're a student and he was your professor, obviously, but what was the tie? Because I know you did tie up pretty good.
Sure, yep. Quite honestly, Frank, it was kind of just that professor-student relationship, although we hit it off really well, got along really well. And but at the time that I was in his class, his internship in Oakdale opened up. And so I talked to him about it, applied for it. I guess you could say it took a little bit of a leap of faith because, it was going from a full-time job with benefits to a very part-time job with no benefits, but was able to do that, and spent about 1.5 years in Oakdale as the intern, and learning under Craig is far better experience than any classroom. No offense to any professors out there, but
no. Now I'm on the EDC, as you know, and and you were there 12 years ago now, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
I just can't believe it. I mean, I remember you, but you were just a snot-nosed little kid there at the time. So then after that, you moved on to where?
Yep. So from that position, I actually moved on to the city of Newport. That's a very small city, so wore a lot of hats there, but was the assistant administrator and the economic development director, and I was there during the time of the whole large Wakota Bridge, Highway 61 reconstruction.
Wow. So were you involved with that? I suppose you were. Huh?
I was, yeah, very much involved, and the city and myself acted as a kind of a go-between, you might say, between MnDOT and then the residents and the business community down there, because it was a major change. Removing 3 at-grade intersections with stoplights and basically making one big semi-four.
So that would be, so you were involved with the Highway 61 going into Newport, is that correct?
Correct, yes. Yeah.
Highway 61, and they took all those old buildings and everything out?
Yeah.
Was that a pretty tough situation? I mean, all those businesses are gone.
Yes. Short answer, yes. It was a very difficult situation for the business community. Some have actually survived, and I can say I'm very proud of them. They've done a great job of surviving through that whole ordeal and that mess, you might say.
Boy, you must have just been on pins and needles for that one, huh?
It was an interesting time, but it was a great experience at the same time. It was a great experience and just building relationships, both with the state and with the business community and residents. It was a great experience, Frank. I really enjoyed it, actually.
I'm sure it was. Yeah. I want to get back to something here. You, after you got your undergrad and then you were working at the Senate, and then you decided that you wanted to get involved in local government. Yeah. So what would make you want to do that? Sure. I mean, sometimes there's some pretty serious things happening.
Sure.
Go ahead. Why would you?
Well, can I just name one Craig Waldron?
Yeah, is that right?
He was a large influence on that. But really, Frank, I think what was the real deciding factor is when I took the internship, worked in Newport. It just you make a difference, and you can make a difference at the state level too, but you really get to kind of be there and see the difference you're making every day in people's lives. So that was the draw for me.
Geez, good for you.
Yeah,
that's a good motive. I like that. That sounds good. All right, so then after Newport, you went to where?
I went all the way over to the southwest corner of the Twin Cities. I was actually the assistant administrator and economic development director for the city of Chaska. Over in Carver County there. So, yep, a little bigger city. Got some good experience working on some big development deals and things like that. I had some experience working on in Oakdale as well. So, that was a great experience.
So Chaska would be a building community, a newer community.
Yes, that's correct.
So they've got more land and they have more opportunities for building, and you dealing with contractors and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep. They have they're a growing community. When I left, were about 24,000, and I think they've grown some. Obviously, it's been a little bit stagnant over these last few years with the economy, but they have a lot more space to grow, both on the commercial side and the residential side. So,
So who's the city administrator out there?
city administrator out there, his name is Matt Podorowski. Difficult name to say, but great guy. I actually knew him before I even applied for the job. He was actually the assistant before me, and then they moved him up to be the administrator, and then I applied, and I guess I impressed him to be.
So that's some good experience there then, huh?
Oh, definitely, yes. Yeah.
Okay, after that then you went to Falcon Heights, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as city administrator?
Yes.
For 3 years? 3 years? How was that? Tell me about that.
That was another really great experience. You know, one thing, Frank, and I don't mean to ramble, but
oh, that's what we're here for.
You know, one of the big decisions, when the Falcon Heights job came open, I really wasn't looking to go anywhere. I really enjoyed working as the assistant in Chaska, but I had a number of people say, oh, you should look at the Falcon Heights position as the city administrator. And one of the largest decisions, the biggest decision there for me was, do you stay in a larger community as the assistant, or do you go to a smaller community but become the city administrator and get some time in the chair, as you might say. And it just seemed to feel right, and you know, they obviously wanted me in Falcon Heights, so it just seemed right to go after and get the Falcon Heights job. Falcon Heights is a small community, but it has the state fairgrounds are completely within Falcon Heights, and 90% of the U of M St. Paul Ag campus is actually within the city.
Otherwise, it's a pretty old community, I think, isn't it? The house stock is pretty old.
Yep, it's pretty old.
How big is the population there? Do you remember?
It's 5,500.
Oh,
so
really?
Yep.
That's not very big.
No. But large entities within it, and surrounded by larger communities as well, Roseville, St. Paul, Minneapolis. So there actually is a lot more, development-wise, maybe not as much going on, but just dealing with those larger entities on a daily basis.
So how was it dealing with the University of Minnesota Ag and the State Fair?
Sure.
So you're involved with both of those. How was that?
Yep. That was an interesting and fun experience, because they're both entities, you might say, unto themselves. You know, we really didn't have a lot of control over them, but we did have a very good working relationship with them, both entities, which wasn't the case upwards of even 10 to 15 years ago. There was some animosity there between the city and each of those two entities, but I think over the last 10 to 15 years, and a couple of my predecessors, when I was there in my position there, they were able to help foster a much better working relationship with both of those entities.
So when you walked in there, was it kind of ruffled at the time, and do you feel that you smoothed it out a little bit better, more?
I think it was actually probably on a very good, pretty smooth, but I was able to continue to build on those relationships and work with those people, and work with them to just, work with them to make Falcon Heights a better community. So.
Okay. Now, we talked before about there's no room to grow out there unless the university gives up, about 200 acres, 300? I don't know how many acres they have.
Quite a bit.
Is it?
Yep. I don't actually know the exact amount, but let's just say this, 60% of the property in the city of Falcon Heights was non-taxable, publicly owned property.
Right?
So, yeah.
Well, that was an interesting concept, huh? You had to work around that a little bit.
Yep.
But tell us about they have it's a heck of a program. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily want to confiscate that land, would you, or use it for development? Not confiscate, but I guess use it for development, or encourage.
Yeah, the university actually, they control all that property. The city really doesn't have a lot of say in it, the city of Falcon Heights. And then, they've been doing research on some of those fields for, the last century. So, they have, even right outside my office window, they'd have, plots where they were growing different grasses, different turf grasses, and different, feeds for animals, and how does the soil react with this seed and things like that. So a lot of research on those properties and those fields in that area.
It's good for all of us, right? I mean, you just have to accept the fact that you aren't going to build houses on it. So
correct.
It's probably not going to happen. All right, now you have been here for 2 months. City administrator for 2 months. How is it going?
Yes, yes, about 2 months now. It's going great. At least from my perspective, I don't know what you've heard.
I haven't heard anything bad so far, so let's go with your perspective.
All right. Yeah, it's been going great, Frank. It's really helpful to walk into an organization where you know the culture, because I've been here before. I probably knew about 75% of the people, when I walked in the door. So those relationships are there. And obviously Craig left a well-oiled machine for me, so You know, it's been great. It's been a great move. I knew that when I applied for the job before they even offered it to me. I know if I get this job, I know it's going to be a great move for myself and my family, and hopefully the city as well. So,
So moving from Falcon Heights, how'd your wife feel about that? And did she, or didn't care, or what? I mean,
she loved it.
She did.
Yeah, it cut my commute in half actually.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, it's only about 15 minutes from our doorstep to Oakdale, City Hall.
How cool is that, huh?
It was great. Yeah, and we see ourselves, even though at the time, right now we live in Cottage Grove, but we see ourselves, and I like to include my wife and my family in my professional decisions, and so we see ourselves being part of the Oakdale community, even if we're living in Cottage Grove, but being part of the Oakdale community for a long time.
Sure.
Or as long as the council will have me.
Yeah. Say, now that brings us up, working with this council and working with other councils that you've worked with. And I hate to make comparisons, but let's compare. I mean,
sure.
how's it going with our people?
Very good, very good. It's, you know, Frank, I had a very stable, very professional council, very stable politically in Falcon Heights. So to make a move, I knew I had to move to another place where I knew the council and the political, I'll use, you know, political in quotes, but political culture of the organization was stable, because even though Oakdale was a bigger city, and it isn't, but if there was some major issues going on, I wouldn't have wanted that. You know, so I guess to answer your question, it's very stable. I'm really glad I made the move. They're a great group of people, have Oakdale's best interests at mind.
You don't ever hear of things happening behind the scenes in Oakdale. I mean, if anybody's going to hear it, I am. But I hear nothing.
Yeah.
You hear no backstabbing. It's been like that for years and years and years.
Yeah.
That's got to help you go to work every morning, right?
It does. It makes life so much easier for not only me, but all the staff. And you're right. I mean, it's been years and years. And I'd say that, that starts at the top. That starts with the mayor. That starts with the council. That doesn't mean they don't ever disagree.
Certainly.
But they disagree respectfully. And that is so helpful and so, I guess, it just makes life so much easier for all of us at City Hall.
So since you came to Oakdale, has there been any major projects that you are involved in?
Sure. Well, the exciting one for me, and I guess it's kind of was already in the ground and coming, but we're still really looking forward to the Hy-Vee opening at 694 and 10th. It's amazing the buzz around that store. I know we've had a meeting with the new manager of the store, a couple of the city staff, and they're getting buzz on their Facebook page from miles away, as far away as even St. Louis Park, of people saying, I grew up in Iowa going to Hy-Vee's. I love Hy-Vee's. I'm going to come to your store when it opens up,
really?
Because so the brand loyalty there is amazing too.
Really?
So there's a lot of buzz there, Frank, and we're really looking forward to that. And of course the Gateway Corridor, the bus rapid transit and the Gold Line, as the Met Council's calling it. I think that's going to be not only for Oakdale but for the region, for the East Metro as a whole. I think that's going to be a really, really good thing. I think it's going to draw us together as an East Metro region and really put us on the map.
So where is that at this point? I think I heard some. It might not be. Oh, well, where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Well, unfortunately, with the lack of a transportation bill at the legislature this year, I'll say it's set back a little bit, but we are the communities in Washington County and Ramsey County are looking at various options to fund what the legislature didn't fund. So I'd say it's just a minor setback, but still pushing forward on that. And I'd say in the next couple of years we're going to see something coming up and down 94 there. So.
Good. All right, we were talking about getting along with the council and all that.
Sure.
There's a neighbor near us, a community near us, who is just in total turmoil. Now I want to ask you, what does that do to the politics and 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 to
Well, I've had the good fortune, Frank, to really work for really good mayors and councils all throughout my career. So I don't have a lot of firsthand experience on that.
But you can, as a professional, you can look and see
Yep.
what's going to happen here. Go ahead.
Yep.
So
No, Frank, it puts a lot of stress on staff, and I think it obviously puts a lot of stress on the community members themselves. But there's a lot. Staff can be very stressed under those situations, for lack of any better term to say, because it's just difficult sometimes to discern what exactly the council may want when you kind of have maybe what you might say two factions on the council. So it's difficult to know exactly what the council wants and how they want to proceed on certain things. And so sometimes, quite frankly, bigger items, bigger projects can kind of get delayed or put on the shelf because we just don't want to tackle them at that time because of the lack of cohesion, you might say, all around. So.
Now it seems, well, if it affects the staff, and of course that's got to trickle down to the citizens, would you think? As far as getting anything done, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it can have an effect too. It kind of depends upon where it's at and what stage it's at. But like I said, I can only see it from the positive aspects, and I know from my experience that residents greatly appreciate it when the city as a whole, both the elected body and the staff level, and you might say the professionals, are cohesive, working together, because that's when you do get the big stuff done,
Sure.
the cool things, the Carlson developments, the Hy-Vee, the redevelopments of the Oakdale Mall into the Hy-Vee. That's when you can get that big stuff done. Like I said, doesn't mean that everyone's always agrees with everything, or they may disagree, but they can talk about those disagreements respectfully, and then move on. So, yeah.
Well, I just read in the paper recently that there was, I think 3 staff people just quit. They just absolutely quit, not counting the city administrator. What could possibly get done when you're that short of people? It isn't that big a community in the first place, I guess, but you're short 3 people for starters, plus the city administrator. How bad could that get or be?
I'm going to keep my answer short, Frank, and just say it's not good. It can be very difficult to get things done, yes.
Sure. I'd hate to be a contractor coming to that city and trying to build houses or build anything, right? Wouldn't you? I mean,
it would be very difficult.
You're just up against the wall.
Yes, very difficult.
Now, let me ask you this. Does this scare you in terms of, I remember Craig Walden, his famous quote is, as city administrator, I'm one vote away from being out the door.
Sure.
Does that scare you at all?
I'll be honest with you, Frank. It's probably something you always think about in the back of your mind, but we talked about it before. Oakdale has been so stable. It's a good group of elected people. I don't, anything can happen, in the back of the mind, but I don't see that happening anytime soon anyway. I think it's the culture of the organization now in Oakdale. It's the culture of Oakdale. And that's hard to change, one way or the other.
Sure.
It can be hard to change from negative to positive, but it can be really hard to also change it from positive to negative, just like that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so where do you see Oakdale in the next, let's say, 4 years? Where do you see it?
Yeah. Well, one thing is continuing to maintain that, that positive culture, both at the elected level and the staff level, keeping that positive culture going so that we can get those big things done. I also see Oakdale as being one of those communities, or a community on the east side that partners with the cities and the county and the organizations around them regionally, but also has its own, it has its own identity. And I see Oakdale in the next 4 years also as being, when people talk about the east side of the metro area, Oakdale is a community that comes to their mind right away, instantly. If someone says, "Oh, the East Metro," where Oakdale, maybe Woodbury too, but Oakdale is one of those signature communities on the east side. I think we already are. I think it's just building on that and continuing to build on that positive image that we have. So.
Now, the last two, the new council people and the new mayor, one of their goals, all 3 of them said that their goals is to upgrade Oakdale. I mean, it's an old community, especially the right off of Century Avenue and the first corridor part there. To upgrade it and try and, you know, bring these older buildings up to snuff. So how do you stand on that?
Sure. Well, I think that's key. That's key in any older community. You know, I came from Falcon Heights, taking pride in one's property, whether it be your residence or your commercial building. I know you're doing some things to your building, spending a large chunk of money, an investment.
Yes,
and that's what we need to entice people to do, and take pride in those properties and get them to continually keep them up, keep them looking nice. Community Development Director Bob Streeter is presently, he and his staff are in the middle of putting together a kind of a neighborhood, you might call it revitalization program or a neighborhood program where neighborhoods can kind of focus in on what are the things that as a neighborhood they can do to take pride in community and pride in their personal properties as well. So.
Well, I know in my instance there is money available to upgrade your older stock, and my building is what 40 years old. Sure. But part of the thing is you have to encourage people to do that. I think you got to throw some money at them, and I mean I don't know where they're at on that level, but I think that's something that has to be done, and I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yep. I think there's numerous tools in the toolbox, Frank, that being one of them.
Yes.
And how that kind of plays out, not necessarily sure, but yes, I would agree that we need to look at kind of all the tools in the toolbox, that being one of them, as opportunities for revitalization. So.
That's good. Yeah, Oakdale's an old community, and I mean it's been here a long time. You compare it to Woodbury, of course, and they started out with farmland, and everything is new, and they put what they want where they wanted it. I mean, what more could you ask for building a community, right?
Sure.
But we don't have that luxury, so. Yeah. Well, anyway, we are out of time, and we are. And I want to thank you for joining us today, and I wish you all the best of luck. And remember what Craig said: I'm one vote away.
That's right.
Don't you worry. You're doing a fine job. I have not heard anything bad about it, so you're doing fine. Thanks for joining us today on Oakdale Update.
Well, thank you, Frank. I really appreciate it.
You bet. It's now time for this month's code enforcement reminders. Remember that grass needs to be kept to a minimum height of 6 inches, and weeds need to be kept under control on your property. To report tall grass and weeds, use the form on the Public Works section of the city's website or call 651-702-5225. As for watering your lawn, the city has an odd-even system. If you have an odd-numbered house, water on odd-numbered days, and even houses on even days. And finally, the city has wrenches for pulling buckthorn available to residents to use at no cost. Call 651-730-2740 to check availability. We're just about out of time, but before we go, don't forget about the Summer Concert Series. These free concerts take place throughout the summer at the Walton Park Band Shell on 15th Street and Hadley Avenue, and are sponsored by the Oakdale Recreation Department. Upcoming concerts include country band, the Killer Hayseeds on June 17th, classic rock band Rockin Hollywoods on June 26th, rock band Shag on June 27th, followed by the fireworks show, blues artist Everett Smithson on July 8th, and bluegrass band the Bluedrifters on July 22nd. Additional concerts are listed on the city's website. Again, these concerts are free and all begin at 7 p.m. It's all we have time for. For everyone at the City of Oakdale, thanks for watching.